Hey guys, back with another cut test vid. That's simply orange with pineapple, if you're wondering. It's delicious. Today I am doing the Kershaw Skyline, which is an extremely popular knife. A lot of people love it. A couple of people have asked for it, and it is a different steel, so it's a good knife to test. It's got a nice thin blade, nice hollow grind. It should perform pretty well, and the 14C28N steel is really good steel in my opinion. I like it. A little bit better than 8CR13 MOV, and I'm curious to see if that is recognizable in this test. I'm going to go ahead and make you listen to the autofocus. Last time you'll have to hear that. I'm going to go ahead and get to it. I'll show you the initial sharpness, which is extremely sharp because this steel takes an extremely keen edge. I'm pretty sure this is actually a steel designed for razor blades, so it takes a really sharp edge. That could be 13C. I'm not sure. Somebody will correct me. I'm almost positive of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it. This is roughly 9 feet of 3/4 inch sisal rope, or this is roughly 3 feet of 3/4 inch sisal rope that I've unbraided into 9 feet of 1/4 inch. Yes, just as I expected, this knife is an extremely good slicer. I'm not having to put much effort into it like I have been most of the other knives, except the Tenacious. That one's pretty good. I always like to test sharpness after the first couple cuts, and of course this one is slicing very well. It's got one little nick in there already, which could just been something in the rope that did that. I'm gonna try not to cut myself this time, because that's never a good look. So I am pretty curious to see how this performs. Very comfortable knife. It's really fitting my hand a lot better than I thought it would. It's kind of thin, so I didn't know if it would give me trouble, but it's fitting my hand really well, so that's nice. Should stave off some of the fatigue. Gonna go ahead and test again. Ooh. Starting to lose that razor edge pretty quickly. Although it will still slice phone book paper, so that's still really good. But we're not even through the first 3 feet, so it is, however, still slicing really well. I'm gonna try and finish this one out. A couple of different people have asked me about stropping the knives, how well a strop would bring them back from this work. So I am going to do that in this video. Just going to give it a few light strops and see what it does. Should go ahead and test sharpness again. it's kind of dull right in here, which is to be expected. That's where it's doing most of the cutting. It will I don't know what to call that. It slices sometimes, so I'll call this barely hanging on to its phone book paper slicing edge. I don't know. That's a tough call. We'll check it again and then I'll declare it officially dead after that. Still cutting really well though. One thing I will say is this rope seems to be a really good test media, because I've had pretty much no variation in the quality of the rope or the toughness of the rope, so it should give very accurate results. Although my test has no formal way of actually being accurate. I have no PSI or anything of the force it takes for these cuts. You just have to believe what I'm telling you. One day I may get into the more scientific testing, but for right now I like this practical layman's way of doing things. I'll make a push cut just for kicks and shits and giggles, and the rope flattened out. Let's see. Started to get through it. There aren't many knives that'll do a push cut on this stuff, but some do. The Tenacious did it very well. Mannix 2 did it very well. Paramilitary 2 did it extremely well. Gonna go ahead, test our sharpness, and I'm declaring that fine edge a goner. Gonna check my time. About 8 minutes, 7 minutes maybe. It will still slice printer paper, and I feel none of those catches in the printer paper, so there's no big rolls or chips. So still a pretty good edge. It would definitely still be a working edge. That was a good idea, the person that suggested I strop. I'm pretty curious to see how that works out. I just touched the blade to the part of my finger that I cut yesterday. The cut was painless, but that hurt. I guess it's sensitive. Okay. There's no need to chunk. Down to the last 3 feet. Kind of having to give it a sawing action now, so there's definitely some edge degradation there. This makes you really appreciate the higher end steels, because even after they dulled, they still cut really well. So you don't have that super screaming sharpness, but you still do have a knife that is very capable of cutting, and it's still really sharp. It's what most people would consider very sharp, even when it has dulled to that toothy edge. Down to the last cut. Make sure I get through it. Okay. Let's go ahead and test on paper. Still very capable of cutting printer paper. I haven't had a steel yet that wouldn't cut this printer paper unless it's really dull, and this test isn't capable of dulling these knives to that point. So I will tell you that this has a fair bit of resistance cutting this paper. 14C is supposed to be a hair better than 8CR, and I've heard it compared to VG10, but I just don't see it in my test. I would say this is pretty much spot on to 8CR. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a strop and see what that does to it. Let's see if it'll cut this now. It's much better. Of course, a strop won't take out the rolls and chips, but the parts of the edge that are undamaged and not degraded are actually back to fairly sharp. So the strop did do what it's intended to do. Now this amount of work is too much for a strop to fully restore, but it does help a great deal. So I've always thought of 14C to be better than 8CR 13 MOV, and it just doesn't seem to be the case. So that's pretty surprising to me. Thanks for watching, guys, and I know I'm going to do the ZT301 pretty soon. Probably going to do Benchmade's Mini Griptilian to test 154 cm, so that should be interesting to see how it compares to this. But I'm calling this right on the same level with 8CR 13 MOV. So drop me a comment, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.